The carriers of the task force are bound to their supporting ships by the commander's will and a network of electromagnetic signals. The purely human bond is the logistics helicopter. Commander Donald Garrett.
As a log helo pilot, I see a great deal of Task Force 77. As a matter of fact, I think I see more of it than anybody else on a day-to-day basis. We fly from carrier to carrier and from ship to ship, all within Task Force 77. Some of our people out there they used to go for weeks, for months without mail. But one of the most important things to, I would say, the average sailor out there now, when it comes to the log helo, is the daily mail. The ships that we live on out here come and go, however we stay. You might say we're nomads of the Tonkin Gulf. We are the only airline that I know of that has to deliver people to their destination while we're still flying. And we get to see them all. We get to know their personalities. And the ships do have personalities, just like people.
The log helo gives a little and takes a little. Refueling on the fly makes every little ship a filling station in the China Sea. The landing pad on USS Stanley is at the very tip of the task force's perimeter, more than 100 miles north of Kitty Hawk. Stanley, a 3-year-old frigate, is the picket ship, the task force's advance warning ship and advance guard. Captain William M.A. Green commands.
Mr. Giannett, bring the ship to 25 knots.
Aye, sir. All engines ahead flank indicate 175 RPM for 25 knots.
Captain Green.
Stanley is a ship of less than 3 years old. She has invested in her, from the people of the United States, $100 million worth of ship and $200 million worth of ship's company. Stanley, in her position as the Pirates ship, is the eyes of the 7th Fleet, which means she's the furthest north in the Tonkin Gulf and has the ability to detect whether or not a hostile aircraft or surface vessel might be approaching the 7th Fleet forces. This ship's company is made up of what we call the top drawer variety of the new breed of people. They are highly skilled and trained in electronics, which is awfully important to the concept of present-day warfare.
Sophisticated Stanley may be, but she still needs the hands of a seaman. Bosun's mate, 2nd class, Richard Handley.
As modern as this ship is, there's 2 rates that she cannot do without. That's her bosun mates and her engineering department. As bosun mates, we handle the ship as they handled ships of old, with lines and all sorts of associated equipment. The 2 that work together the closest are your bosun mates and your engineers. Your engineers keep the ship running, they keep us with fresh water, they keep us with fuel, and they supply the speed. We as bosun mates keep the ship maintenance-wise up to par, keep all of our topside areas up to date with gear, and keep everything running and working in working order. We handle everything such as refueling and high lines.
A fleet of supply vessels, a task force in itself, mothers the ships on station. UNREP, underway replenishment, sees to it that no ship falls short of anything it needs. The 2 ships steam side by side as fuel goes into Stanley's tanks. On the signal bridge, a brisk trade goes on in movies. Old, new, any movie you haven't seen lately. There are many ways to board a ship. Some of them not very interesting. Some of them a bit too interesting. Arriving by high line is in the 2nd classification. Stanley's escort destroyer, USS Porterfield, has come alongside to pick up a medical officer for a routine visit. It is the doctor's first voyage in the bosun's chair. Porterfield now has a doctor in the house.
All ahead 2/3 indicate turns for 10 knots.
All ahead 2/3 indicate turns for 10 knots, right, sir. Right, the 24.
Stanley has another visitor, a Russian trawler. Captain Green.
Trawler, the Gidrofon, is the present one in the Gulf. Should be on station for some time, we suppose. And it looked like an array of electronics, antennas, and transmission equipment. Soviet elite ships that position themselves in the Tonkin Gulf among our naval forces have a right to be here. This is international waters. Our guidelines are pretty much to be alert to him, but not to interfere, of course, with his operations. At the same time, not to let him interfere with our operations. I want to keep the Soviet trawler Gidrofon to port just for its meanness. He's been trying to maneuver around to see our starboard side, and really, I don't know what he'll gain, but we'll keep him interested anyhow by, if I continue to pass him to port as he stays around my area of operation here.
Stanley is full of devices that might interest Soviet intelligence. Her Combat Intelligence Center has the job of alerting the entire task force to any hint of threat. Captain Green.
It's a time of quick response now, a matter of seconds. And that is the atmosphere in which the commanding officer of a ship of this sophistication operates. You know, you might ask me, what level do you stop letting people make decisions or use their judgment? We don't stop at any level. We even have petty officers of the Blue Jacket, first class and second class petty officers, who communicate back and forth with other ships without ever consulting me before they communicate or consulting the evaluator. They've got to, in order to keep, we say, real-time information flowing.
I am turning control over console number 3.
Radar man first class Arthur Russell.
This is the bar cap, barrier combat air patrol, the first line of defense for Task Force 77. We are providing control, much the same as around a civilian airport, with one important exception. MiG air bases are approximately 30 miles north of this aircraft, and at any time they may venture out. If they did, it would be my job to vector the bar cap into a position to meet the incoming raids.
Passage 401, this is Arm Oliver. 401 up.
And working with these pilots every day, pretty soon it gets to be on a first name basis, and then eventually it leads up to a nickname basis. The pilots and the controllers all have nicknames. Some of them are very descriptive, such as the Hawk, Happy. I acquired the nickname of the Bear initially, and after a period of time it was shortened even further to the Teddy Bear. I'm known as the Teddy Bear of the Tonkin Gulf. These bar cap pilots are the world's greatest. It's often difficult sitting down here watching a couple of pips on a scope, especially after getting to know several of them personally after visits to the carrier, and then all of a sudden you have a pip disappear on you. It's a very shattering experience every time we lose one, particularly when you know someone personally.
Just about a week ago, Ernie and I had a little incident where we had a double engine flame out. We had to eject from the aircraft. We were about halfway down to Da Nang. We had another F-4 on our wing. Of course, he was right there to make all the radio broadcasts. We were in the parachutes, and we hit the water, and one of the first things I did was to pull out my little personal survival radius. As soon as we got in the water, I was in full contact with the other aircraft at all times. Just to prove how quick these people did work and how well their teamwork was, we were in the water from the time we jumped out of the airplane to the time we were on board the helicopter on our way to the USS Hornet. It was a total of, I'd figure, less than 25 minutes.
A task force is a collection of men and ships at sea. And the sea is full of wind and rain and weather. and days and weeks and months passing. Many Americans no longer think of themselves as a seafaring people. The prairies, the mountains, the wilderness are more our historic images. Yet, Leif Erikson, Columbus, the Pilgrims, the great waves of immigrants came by sea, and Americans fought the most decisive battles in history in the Pacific. One of our greatest stories, Moby Dick, is about the sea, and today we are still farers of the sea.
This is a stand-down day out here at Yankee Station. This is the first one we've had this cruise. Stand-down day is a 24-hour period when we get a chance to relax. There are no flight ops for this time. Of course, they always have to have a fighter manned up. And unfortunately, today, Ernie and I drew the alert. So here we are. While everybody else is down relaxing, we're up here in our airplane just in case we have to be launched, in case we're ever intercepted out here. People, today's Easter Sunday. I just got a letter from you, so I figured I'd write home and let you know what's happening. We're sitting out here off coast Vietnam.
Now, here's a tradition that probably did not come down from the old days of wooden ships and iron men. The catapult officer has ended his tour of sea duty, and he's going home. But not before he commands one more launch from the deck of Kitty Hawk. As the days turn into months, it is easy to forget the perils of the sea. A man coming too close to a jet exhaust has been blown over the side. 5,000 shipmates wait, each suddenly aware of his own mortality. Here is the young sailor saved from the sea.
When I was falling, I didn't have much time to think trivial thoughts. As the ship went past me, I was spotted by one of the watches, and a smoke pot was thrown in the water. I was only in the water for about 10 minutes after the fantail of the ship passed me when a motor whaleboat off the USS Robinson picked me up. Came back on board the ship, landed in the helo that picked me up off the destroyer. I looked out the door. The first thing I saw was all of the CAT crew that the CAT officer would let come over, the men that weren't actually involved in the launch at the time. It was a real good feeling to know that so many of my friends had turned out to see me come back on the ship.
Admiral Cousins.
You have a mixture here of old pros and a large part, perhaps 75% or more, are men and young officers who are on their first combat tour, their first enlistment in the Navy in the case of the men. Nevertheless, it's always gratifying to me and I think surprising to many people to see how the young men pitch in, take their share of responsibility. The young fellows who last year were on a high school football team or working at a gas station this year out here have a vital part in this team, whether they're down in the engine room or working in a shaft alley or tending a boiler or up working on the arresting gear on the flight deck. They're all in a responsible place, and for many guys it's the most responsibility they'll ever have.
Captain Green of the Stanley.
But I believe this is a fairly good summary of commitment to cause. And we have in Navy ships a commonality of cause, a commonality of purpose. I don't believe any other profession can really say that. Everybody has an objective with purpose, an objective for which they stand and which they are destined. But I believe in the Navy ships, even unlike other military forces, there is a commonality of purpose, there is a camaraderie, that I can't believe others can develop. But again, it's when you say shipmate and a ship's mission, they fit hand in hand, and I think we'll usually go in without holding back on one little bit of our effort, individually and as a crew.
A collection of men in ships and planes. Young men and old pros. Shipmates, a long way from home. A task force of the United States Navy.